Penn State at Wisconsin. This is not one of those neutral site games. This is a true road environment. Whiskey minus 5.5. That's the current number, and that number has gone up over about the last 24 hours or so. This is a noon Eastern time kickoff on Fox. Get the chores done in the morning, get back home. This is not a situation where your early window is a lot of secret wet bag of garbage type games, and then the 3:30 window, that's when you got to be there. No. This is almost as good as it gets the entire day. And I think it's the most consequential game in week one, because you can paint a path for Clemson or Georgia, but there's going to be a lot written. There's going to be a lot said about the outcome of this game, even if it's narrow, 23-21 either way. There's a default setting, maybe you've noticed it, with Penn State football. And I don't necessarily blame you for having it. But the default setting around Penn State is it'll be close, but fill in the blank. And your blank probably consists of, well, Sean Clifford against a really good defense on the road with a new offensive coordinator. I don't think that he can overcome a good Wisconsin team. That's probably what your default setting is. And even if you're a Penn State fan, half of you may hold that default setting. But even if you don't, I don't think you can blame a whole lot of people for feeling that way. See, there are plenty of folks out there you can find to tell you Sean Clifford's a good, solid quarterback. There are infinitely fewer people that you can find to tell you Sean Clifford, now that's a dog. He'll get it done. When you're in the foxhole, when it's fourth quarter winning time, he is the Reggie Miller of State College, PA. Not many people saying that. Could it all change? Could Mike Yursich, formerly Tom Yursich on this show, could he be the magic elixir? Could getting a guy like Noah Cain back to full strength, could that be the difference? Could be. We'll see. Hey, that's why they play the games. But it stands to reason there is a lot still to be proven for this Penn State team and this Penn State offense. So if it is a quarterback-quarterback matchup, if it is a shot-for-shot, your guy better than my guy in the fourth quarter, I think a lot of you trust Graham Mertz. Now, I think there is, and it may be fair or unfair, a lot more blind trust being invested into Graham Mertz, but I get it. Because I remember what people were saying last year, myself included, and then it kind of went off the rails because they had a ton of injury and COVID-related issues where they never had that full offense on the field. Well, we get to see it now. All those guys are back. A couple of them came back who didn't have to, and so we get to see it now. So here's the rub. I'm going to go back to Sean Clifford for a second because that is the crux of this game to me. Do we really know what to expect at all? A lot of people have their profile of Sean Clifford already developed, Penn State quarterback, for those unfamiliar. And it is kind of an incomplete player. He has a lot of good, very little great in him. He'll make mistakes at key moments. There's not enough consistency. That's the profile now because that's what we've seen. What I'm asking you is what we've seen an absolute indicator of what we're always going to get? Because I have not seen Sean Clifford in a Mike Yursich offense. I haven't seen him, at least recently, with Noah Cain back there at full strength. I haven't seen him play with now a fully seasoned combination at wide receiver of Dotson and Parker Washington. I haven't seen that. Well, I get to see it now. They're pretty darn good at tight end, too. And so what I'm saying is maybe we get the same product we always got, and if we do, then okay, the profile is complete. But surprises have happened. Bigger surprises than this have happened. Penn State having 24 at the half this Saturday would be surprising. I don't think it would be the biggest shock in the world. How'd they score him? I don't know. But what does a winning stat line look like for him? It doesn't have to be 38 of 45. You know, this is not the mid-2000s Big 12. If he is a nice, solid 18 for 24, 215 yards, a goose egg in the turnover column, that's good enough to have you right there. And that's the kind of game that I think we're going to see between Penn State and Wisconsin. So the things I'm watching, a couple of them here before we start to make the prediction. Wisconsin's secondary is going to be a fascinating matchup. They're good at all three levels. Wisconsin's good at all three levels. But that secondary matchup, Penn State receivers have got to win them, at least a critical amount of them. I mean, you got to be open. And so Dotson can do that. Parker Washington can do that. What they're worried about at Penn State is behind that, how many of these guys can we depend on? Got some names we like. They show flashes in practice, but the old adage is we don't want to put you on the field once you show us you can do it right. We want you to show us you've done it so much you can't do it wrong. Then we want to put you on the field. Well, a lot of times you don't have that luxury. Not everyone's Ohio State, where they can afford to watch multiple track speed athletes walk out of their receiver room and still have the best receiver room in the country. But that's point one. Point two, flat out with this Penn State team. What kind of sense of urgency do they walk out of that tunnel with? Given what we saw last year, given the uncertainty around the team, but given the positive vibes, the willingness to buy in still from this fan base, myself included, I'm willing to still buy in, But man, you got to show me a sense of urgency. This is going to be an incredibly hostile environment. This is not a neutral site game. This is Camp Randall Stadium. This is, in our opinion, a top 10 Wisconsin team. Don't care what the AP says. This is a program with as good a shot at contending as any has had in recent years, and they may have a very, very potent passing attack this year, which I don't think we've ever said on the show about Wisconsin football. You got to overcome all that. You got to have mental toughness, and average teams succumb to that. Good, very good, great teams, they can overcome that kind of stuff. But it's up to you, because the default, like we talked about on the front end, the back end, the default is Wisconsin's got a huge edge here. They get to play in their building, and a lot of your first and second year guys don't even know what crowd noise sounds like, and so you're going to have to deal with it. That place is really hard to play, even if they're kicking it off at noon Eastern. What time zone's Madison in? It's got to be Central Time. Yeah, so either way, it's early, but they'll be ready. Let's take a look, Jesse, at what our model thinks about the game. Again, the line right now out in the desert, according to Caesars, is 5 or 5.5. When I went on air, it was 5.5. And that's moved up from 4.5 as of the last 24, 48 hours. We thought the number was right all along. We had Wisconsin minus 4.5. Man, I gave serious consideration to Penn State here. I even kind of segued to Jesse. Jesse's from Penn State. And so I said, Jesse, what do you want me to pick here? And then he started to say, Penn State, baby. I said, Jesse, pretend like everyone in your family depends on you making this pick, or else they do not get to eat again for the rest of the month. And he said, Badgers win, Penn State covers. And that's kind of where I am right now. I'm going to take Wisconsin to win the game. I think it's very, very narrow. I think it's either way. It's a one-possession game with 5 minutes to go. It's anyone's game. But I think Wisconsin ends up winning the game. Penn State covers the game. There's too much similarity here. Any strength that I talked about with Penn State, there's too much matching point across the ball that I can point out with Wisconsin. I want to remind you, they've had some shaky reports here and there from one person I've talked to for Wisconsin's camp this fall. But, by and large, they get the pieces back they never really fully got to gel with last year. Their passing game, I think, can surprise some people this year. Now, I'm talking this year. This is about this Saturday. Stands to reason, if I'm right about this year, it starts this Saturday. It's not going to be 38 degrees up there yet. So prime conditions, prime atmosphere. I think Wisconsin's going to find a way to get it done. But I'm telling you, if I'm right about this, and this is a narrow game, this is our number 8 team beating our number 9 team by one possession at home. We're not bumping Penn State if that does play out that way.